All right, lesson 5.2, just gonna continue on with what we did yesterday, potential and kinetic energy. 2, specifically looking at finding the speed of an object at a certain time based on its energy, okay? Which is just a nice, more efficient way of doing it than what we actually did in chapter 1, where we, used all these acceleration equations. We can just more look at energy and say, hey, use the energy that the object has to figure out how fast it's going or how high in the air it is. Okay, so let's say we'll do 2 examples here. One, we're throwing a ball upwards, say 25 meters per second, and we'll say it's 2 kilograms. And we're going to look at a certain point in its flight. So let's say after 3 seconds. It's actually going to be on the way down if you think about it. What's going on? What's this velocity here? And also, what's the height? We've done that before, when we used all those equations to figure out, okay, find how high it is at a certain point, or find out, height at a certain time and stuff. This is just a different method. I think you'll find probably easier. Okay, so let's look at our equations. That will guide our thinking. And also, let's think about the energy here. PE here is 0, right? Assuming this height is 0, we're kind of saying where you throw it from is 0. KE, we can calculate that out. That's just 125 squared is what? 225, 625, 625 joules, remember? Joules is energy. Okay, so it's going to have, assuming no energy is lost, remember that total energy will be the same when it gets to here. Okay, so our goal is find the PE and the KE here. So do we know any of this stuff? We don't really know the height. We know the other stuff, but we don't really know its height. We can find its velocity actually pretty easy at 3 seconds. So remember, we lose 9.8 every second. So really 25 minus 9.83 times. So 25 minus 3 times 9.8, it's down to negative 4.4. Okay, so that's easy. So now it's a matter of how do we figure out the height here? Well, we could actually figure out the kinetic energy, right? And then we could use that to figure out the potential energy. That's going to be our key. All right, so let's figure out the kinetic at that point. Negative 4.4 squared. Okay, I'm getting 19.4 about joules. Okay, there's no negatives and positives with energy. It's just a scalar. We say it doesn't have a direction. It's just like temperature, you say. Temperature doesn't have a direction. You don't say it's 90 degrees east, it's just 90 degrees outside. It's energy. Same thing here, it's energy. Okay, remember the total energy stays constant, so I could say, well, the PE at that point, I could just say it's 625 I started with, right? The total energy at the start was 625, minus off 19.4. Looks like I'm left with 605.6 joules of PE. Okay, that's at that point here. And then the last thing is, can I use that PE then to find the height? Okay, so use our PE equation. So I'll do it down here. So, I mean, there is a negative in there, but like I said, for these, energy is just positive. We're not going to worry about that negative. And then the height, actually, we don't know the height, but we know that 605 goes here, right? Okay, we got to solve this for h. So in other words, divide by 2 and divide by 9.8. Okay, so I'm getting h equals about 30.9 meters. Okay, so based on the energy that was left there, 605 joules, we got this height here. Okay, that's a little tricky because we're using those equations differently than yesterday. Okay, and then let's do a roller coaster. 12 meters tall. Say it's 100 kilograms cart, and it's going down, and it's going up this hill here. That's only 4 meters. And I'm wondering, how fast is it going when it gets to that hill here, the top of this hill? Okay, it's going to lose energy, and it's going to gain kinetic, right? Lose potential, but then here it's going to gain potential and lose kinetic. Okay, how do we figure that all out? Okay, so let's look at to start. We always want to look at what's the PE and the KE at the start. PE, MGH. Eleven 760 joules. Assuming we're starting from rest. It doesn't have to be the case, but in this case, let's assume we started from rest, so our KE is just going to be 0. So our total energy is 11,760, right, to start. Now we could find the speed here at the bottom by saying, hey, all of that turns to kinetic here at the bottom, but we're really worried about the speed here. So let's find the kinetic energy here, and that will help us find the speed. So what's a PE and the KE here? All right, so think about our equations again. Always just write those down. We really don't know our velocity here. It's kind of what we're trying to find, so we can't really do much with this, but we can figure out our potential energy at this point. What was 100 kilograms? 0.8 times 4 meters. 392 joules. Our KE is our PE. Our KE is, I'm going to cross this off for a second because I don't really need that yet. Where we got a total of 11,760 to start, minus the 392. I feel like I screwed up somewhere there. That's right. Ugh. Yeah, sorry, this is actually 3920. I missed a 0 there. Makes more sense. Okay, because I really should have a quarter. I knew this should be a quarter of this. That's how I knew something looked fishy there. Okay, so you're left with 7840, right? Joules of kinetic. Now that I know the kinetic, I can use the kinetic energy to find the velocity. Okay, just like up here, I used the potential energy to find the height. It's kind of the new step today. Now I can use the kinetic energy to find the velocity. So go back to your equation. I've got 7840 here. Solving that for V. Okay, this is 50, right? So I'll divide each side by 50. Half times 100 is 50, so I'm getting, squish it down here. V squared. And so I'm going to do a square root there at the end. Square root of 156.8. I'm getting 12.5 for my final answer, meters per second. Okay, so I figured out the KE like we did yesterday, but then I'm going an extra step and saying, hey, if I know my kinetic energy, I actually can find the velocity by using this equation. Okay, hopefully that's enough to get you through the assignment. If you ever have any issues, please just reach out to me, and we can do a quick Google Meet there too. All right, have a good day, guys.